Joe Biden, can he seize the moment and secure their vote? Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, this special edition of 2020, The Vice President and the People. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
And welcome to our town hall with Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, welcome to you.
Good to be with you.
We're here with a group of Pennsylvania voters. You can see they're all appropriately socially distanced tonight. And they're a group of, some are voting for you, some have said they're voting for President Trump, some are still undecided. And we're going to try to take questions from as many of them as we can tonight. And we're going to start with Nicholas Fedden. He's from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. That's close to here in Philadelphia. You're a Democrat.
I am a Democrat. Thank you, George. Mr. Vice President, every day my wife and I are in disbelief at the lack of coordinated federal...
Aren't the riots the most important issue right now? No, I think Americans are way more focused on the economy than anything related to the protests and the riots. That's like a very quick in and out news thing. I think the economy is the central focus of most Americans right now. And then tangentially related, COVID-19, because it's affecting the economy so much.
Action on COVID-19. We know that your administration would follow the science. My question for you is two parts. First, looking backwards to when this country first became aware of COVID-19, what would following the science have meant in terms of actual policy? And then, looking forward, what would your administration do in terms of following the science with real concrete policies that haven't been done by the current administration?
Well, first of all, going back, the fact is that
this is an unbelievably fucking easy question, and it's almost not even fair to ask. Now that you have perfect 2020 hindsight, what would you go back and do differently to deal with the pandemic? Well, I mean, now that I know everything that's happened, and now that I know exactly what we should have done in the perfect, this is a pretty softball-y question. Where the fuck is the My Computer thing at? Why do I feel like I get these massive updates? Wait, does My Computer exist anymore? Computer. Jesus. Okay. Fucking Christ. Sorry.
President was informed how dangerous this virus was. And all the way back in the beginning of February, I argued that we should be keeping people in China. And we had set up in our administration a pandemic office within the White House. There were 44 people on the ground. I suggested we should be seeking, and I didn't hold public office. I was a former vice president. I suggested we, in fact, ask to have access to the source of the problem. And to the best of our knowledge, Trump never pushed that. All those 44 people came home, never got replaced. In addition to that, I pointed out that I thought in February, I did a piece for USA Today saying, this is a serious problem. Trump denied it. He said it wasn't. We later learned that he knew full well how serious it was when he did an interview with Bob Woodward. And at the time, he said he didn't tell anybody because he was afraid Americans would panic. Americans don't panic. He panicked. He didn't say a word to anybody. Then I wrote a piece in March about what I thought we should be doing to take hold of this, using there's an act that's passed a long time ago that allows the president to go into a business and say, stop making this and start making that. And it took a long time for him to even institute that, to get ventilators and so on. And so the point was, he missed enormous opportunities and kept saying things that weren't true. It's going to go away by Easter. Don't worry about it. It's going to all, when the summer comes, it's all going to go away like a miracle. He's still saying those things.
Before you go to the future, can I follow up on looking backward just a little bit? You did have an op-ed in January where you warned of the seriousness of the pandemic, but there's no record of you calling for social distancing, limited social gatherings, mandatory masks.
Not back then.
In January, February.
No, in January, February. No, that's correct. There wasn't. That came at the end of March, and then I laid out a detailed plan relative to school openings in June and July, and I talked about, by that time, the science was becoming clearer and clearer of how this was spreading so rapidly. But the president kept denying that. If you notice, from March on, I stopped doing big meetings. I started wearing masks. So it was at a time when the science was saying, and his key people, Dr. Fauci, were saying, you should be taking these precautions. So what we should be doing now, there should be a national standard instead of leaving this up. And remember what the president said to the governors. Well, they're on their own. It's not my responsibility. The governors can do what they need to do, not my responsibility. It is a presidential responsibility to lead. And he didn't do that. He didn't talk about what needed to be done because he kept worrying, in my view, about the stock market. He worried if he talked about how bad this could be unless we took these precautionary actions, then, in fact, the market would go down. And his barometer of success in the economy is the market. Thirdly, what we didn't do is the president had an opportunity to open and allow schools and businesses to stay open if they got the kind of help they needed. So the Congress passed a couple $1 trillion worth of help, and what happened was most of that money, significant portion of that money, went to the very wealthiest corporations in the country, didn't get to the mom and pop stores. So you had 1 in 5, 1 in 6 minority businesses closing, many of them permanently, people being laid off. And then what happened was when the first tranche of the first round of money for unemployment, enhanced unemployment, went by, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything.
Okay, even though this is a really easy question, this is a really, really, really good answer. I think he's covering all of his bases really well.
And to the best of my knowledge, and I mean this sincerely, I can't think, I've been around for a lot of presidents, and you know a lot of presidents in a crisis. I don't ever remember one never calling the House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats together.
Let's look forward a little bit. You said that you would lock down the economy only if the scientists said it was necessary.
Well, by the way, that wasn't the context. They said, well, I lock down the economy if science said so. I said I'd follow science. But I don't think there's a need to lock down.
But I want to press you on that point.
Sure.
You've been in the Oval Office for 8 years with President Obama. He would always say that only the hard to solve problems get to his desk. What is most likely to happen is the scientists will disagree. The scientists will disagree with the economists. So the question is, how are you going to decide this? Who are you going to listen to? And how can you contain the pandemic without crushing the economy?
Well, you can contain the pandemic by being rational and not crush the economy. For example, I laid out a plan how you can open businesses. You can open businesses and schools if, in fact, you provide them the guidance that they need as well as the money to be able to do it. What's happening now is we know, for example, if you can open a business and you could have a sign on the door saying safe to come in, that's why people aren't going anyway when they're open, and say because you have social distancing, you have plastic barriers, when you go to the cashier, you have separators between the booths, you don't have large crowds, you reduce the size, the number of people you can have in the restaurant, you make sure there's testing. That's a really critical piece that he didn't do, testing and tracing, and you make sure that people are equipped going to schools. You know, the government initially said they're going to provide masks for every student and every teacher. Then they said, no. FEMA said, the president or whomever said, no, that's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. We need more teachers in our schools to be able to open smaller pods. We need ventilation systems changed. There's a lot of things we know now, and I laid them out in some detail. Now, again, when I say I laid them out, I'm not an office holder. I'm running for office. It's not like I'm still vice president or I was a United States senator pushing this. So I don't want to say I. But we did lay out exactly what needed to be done. And take a look. We make up 4% of the world's population. We have 20% of the world's deaths. We're in a situation where we have 210,000+ people dead. And what's he doing? Nothing. He's still not wearing masks and so on.
We're getting some more questions on COVID. Sure. The next one comes from Kelly Lee. She's from Philadelphia.
Thank you.
Republican. Voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Undecided now?
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Biden. My question is about the coronavirus vaccine, or potential. Senator Harris stated that she absolutely would not take a vaccine from President Trump. And of course, we all know it's not President.
To be clear, that's half true. Kamala Harris said that she would trust a vaccine from the scientists, but that she wouldn't take one just from Trump, is what she said. I think that was a horrible fucking answer by Kamala Harris. I don't agree that that's how we should approach public policy, especially not public medical policy. But she did kind of make that distinction. But we'll see how Biden picks up the slack here.
Trump that would create this vaccine. It would be doctors and scientists that presumably we all trust. So my question for you is, if a vaccine were approved between now and the end of the year, would you take it? And if you were to become president, would you mandate that everyone has to take it?
Two things. Number one, President Trump talks about things that just aren't accurate about everything from vaccines, we're going to have one right away, it's going to happen, and so on. The point is that if the body of scientists say that this is what is ready to be done, and it's been tested, it's gone through the 3 phases.
How is that a bad answer? If all the scientists are saying, don't take this, it's not approved, but Trump rams it through, isn't the rational thing not take it? Because Trump can't make a vaccine. I don't think Trump has the power to ram it through. There would be so many like klaxons blaring from people in, I think, like the NIH or the CDC or any of the number of other like pharmaceutical companies or people involved in testing or researchers. There are so many different levels of people that are required to be synchronized in order to get vaccine produced, like the formula created and then the distribution, everything necessary. The idea that Trump could like unilaterally just do that, when I don't think that would happen. I just don't think it's possible. So for her to say like, oh, I wouldn't take a vaccine from Trump is just a little bit irresponsible. It sounds like Biden's going to give a better answer, I think, but let's see. Wouldn't he just have to ram it through the FDA for the sake of approval? Distribution would totally have multiple layers. Well, it's not just for approval, though, right? You would have to get a pharmaceutical company that was willing to take on the risk of a vaccine that was showing like bad shit and like trials and shit. Like, and then there would be so many researchers involved that like, I feel like there would be so many people. I feel like there'd be so many people that could sound the alarms for this. I don't think it would work. But
yes, I would take it. I'd encourage people to take it. But President Trump says things like, everything from this crazy stuff he's walking away from now, inject bleach in your arm, and that's going to work. I'm not being facetious. He's actually said these things. And now Regeneron is the answer. That's going to cure everything. There's 500,000 doses. We got a couple. We have more than a few million people. And most of if you notice, most of the companies who are developing these vaccines are working. They're making real progress. I meet with 4 leading scientists at least twice a week in the beginning, 4 times a week, giving us the detail on what kind of progress is being made. And right now, they do the right thing. When they run into a serious problem, they halt the test. They don't continue until they figure out what the problem was. They're not there yet. And the most scientists say there's not likely to have a vaccine that would be available until the beginning of next year, into the spring of next year. And in the meantime, what I worry about is the same thing with Regeneron, which is a useful a useful tool. But what's happening is there is no plan to figure out how to distribute it. How many, we have 500,000, vials of it. Well, we don't have all the testing equipment. We don't have all the ability to get it to the people who need it. And what we should be doing now, and allegedly it's happening, but I've not seen it yet, nor the docs that I've talked to have seen it, there should be a plan when we have the vaccine. How do we distribute it?
And once we get it, if it's safe, if it's effective, will you mandate its use?
The answer is, depending on how clear there's vaccines, they say, have a very positive impact, and they're going to affect positively 85% of the American public.
I would be shocked if the United States executive branch could enforce a law that mandates a vaccine. There's no way that's constitutional. I would be shocked if that were the case. I don't know if Apple is, or Pisco, or Esports Batman, or any of our resident lawyers are in chat. That sounds impossible, but I could be wrong. Obviously, I could be wrong on anything related to constitutional law, but
there's others say this vaccine is really the key. This is the golden key. It depends on the state of the nature of the vaccine, when it comes out, and how it's being distributed. That would depend on. But I would think that we should be talking about, depending on the continuation of the spread of the virus, we should be thinking about making it mandatory.
How could you enforce that?
Well, you couldn't. That's the problem. Just like you can't enforce measles. You can't come to school unless you have a measles shot. You can't. But you can't say everyone has to.
There are vaccines mandated for school. Schools are publicly funded. So in public schools, they can mandate vaccines. So could they mandate it in general? I could see them mandating it to go to school, but to mandate it in general, I'm not sure. I just don't know.
Do this. But you would, just like you can't mandate a mask, but you can say, you can go to every governor and get them all in a room, all 50 of them as president, and say, ask people to wear the mask. Everybody knows.
And if they don't?
And they don't, no, not fine. Then I go to every governor, I go to every mayor, I go to every councilman, I go to every local official, say, mandate the mask. Say, this is what you have to do when you're out. Make sure you encourage it being done. Look, George, you and I know, and I think you do too as well, the words of a president matter.
Absolutely.
No matter whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, they matter. And when a president doesn't wear a mask or makes fun of folks like me when I was wearing a mask for a long time, then, people say, well, it mustn't be that important. But when a president says, I think this is very important, for example, I walked in here with this mask, but I have one of the M95.
I love that he's hitting this answer on this is like one of the best Biden answers I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't know if he fucking sacrificed some cow or whatever and summoned himself back from 10 years ago, but he's hit this on the policy level, and now he's hitting it on a personal level, right? How would I do this by policy? We would meet with a lot of senators, we do this, blah, 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 or not senators, I'm sorry, governors, mayors, blah, 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 and now he's hitting it on a personal level. The words of a president matter. Our rhetoric is important. If we wear a mask or whatever. I like that he's doing a multifaceted attack on this answer. Is really, really, really good. Makes me wonder if they were given the questions. Wait, were they given the questions ahead of time on this? It seems like it. The answer to this is so well prepared. I wonder if they were. I don't know if that's released officially or not or whatever, but
5 masks underneath it.
Interesting that he's not getting any pushback from the interviewer, contrasted with the Trump town hall. Well, the thing is that for Biden, it's going to be a lot harder to push back on him because he's the prospective candidate. He's somebody that wants to be president. They don't really have anything to criticize Biden on except maybe his 8 years as vice president. But Trump has 4 years in office now, which have gone pretty disastrously. So it's harder for Trump to answer questions because he's going to be attacked on his record. It's a lot harder to hit Biden for his record because he hasn't been president. You can go by 8 years as vice president. But also, nothing Biden has said so far has been very controversial, right? Whereas Trump is trying to make up numbers related to the fatality rate is this or blah, 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 or whatever, or, the Russians and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But yeah, this isn't a very surprising question. He should have an answer prepared for this anyway. Yeah, sure. Disastrously, it's been a very stable and successful presidency up until the virus. CWG and YouTube chat, you are absolutely fucking insane if you think that the current leadership of the United States of America is viewed as stable by any singular country in the entire world. We have lost the faith of every Western country in the world. Angela Merkel was speaking in front of the EU talking about how we can't rely on the U.S. anymore. We've lost alliances with people in fucking Australia, with people in Canada, Trudeau, people that say that they've lost faith in the United States. Trump couldn't even fucking name the fucking Mexican president when he was talking about that country. We have undermined our relationship with NATO. We've undermined our relationship with the UN. We have abandoned our allies in the Middle East. The idea that we've pulled out of historic treaties that we've made with other countries for nuclear deals. We have empowered and emboldened countries like North Korea or Saudi Arabia when they kill stability is not a word that any sane human being would ever, and that's just foreign policy. Domestically, we've rolled back a mandate related to our health care that ensured that an additional 10 million Americans got insurance. We have rescinded things like DACA or Dreamer Acts that have made it so that a lot of Americans that are in the United States don't know if they're going to be welcome here in a year or two. Economically, we've been doing pretty good. I don't know how much credit Trump gets for the economy. I don't know if Trump is the reason why Amazon and Facebook and Google and everybody do as well. But this idea that we've been a super stable country, insurance they can't afford. Obamacare was total trash, and you know it. Obamacare kind of sucked. But I mean, it's because it was the negotiated position. That's where we wound up at. Obamacare is better than what we had before. The 10 plus million Americans that got insured that didn't have insurance before Obamacare, or the people that held insurance, because there's a lot of provisions related to the Affordable Care Act that also improved currently existing insurance that you don't know about as well. For example, so not only things like pre-existing conditions, but making it so that insurance companies had to provide minimum levels of care for things. That if you have insurance, that they're guaranteed to provide you like certain levels of minimum health care that a lot of people didn't have before. Or the idea that insurance companies had to actually pay out, not premiums, but pay out like for costs of medical procedures that they initially would try to weasel out of. There were a lot of other provisions in the ACA that were really positive as well. Has healthcare become more expensive in the United States? Absolutely. Did the ACA go far enough? Absolutely not. But was rescinding the mandate for the ACA to sit there and watch it fail so we can go back to the horrible system that we had before? Was that a step in the right direction? Of course not. Repeal and replace was the slogan of the Republican Party for the 6 years leading up to Trump's election in office in 2017. Repeal and replace, repeal and replace. That's what we heard over and over again. And all we got was a repeal. We have not replaced it with anything. So don't sit here and pretend like fucking Republicans did anything good for healthcare. You're just totally fucking dishonest if you believe that.
In my dressing room, the room I was in before I got here. And so I think it matters what we say. And we're now learning that children are getting the virus, not with as serious consequences. But there's been no studies done yet on vaccines for children. So there's a long way to go, but we can make progress in the meantime and save lives. And the last point I'll make, if you listen to the head of the CDC, he stood up and he said, while we're waiting for a vaccine, and he held up a mask. You wear this mask, you'll save more lives between now and the end of the year than if we had a vaccine. It's estimated by every major study done, from the University of Washington to Columbia, that if, in fact, we wore masks, we could save between now and the end of the year 100,000 lives.
And avoid lockdowns?
And avoid lockdown, yes. You don't have to lock down if you're wearing the mask.
Let's get a question on the economy. Anthony Argyrakis.
Thanks. I hope I answered your question.
From Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh, Republican.
I know
for President Trump.
Merkel is salty, therefore Orange Man bad. You realize that people that have Trump derangement syndrome, you're just as stupid as them when you try to dismiss every single valid criticism of Trump as Orange Man bad, right? Like, you're literally, when you do that, you're going, Orange Man good, actually. Like, that's your response, right? Because I'm pretty sure that everything I just gave you was a pretty fair attack on Trump's administration. I think all of my criticisms are fair. And for you to respond with Orange Man bad, really what you're saying, Orange Man good. If that's all you want to think, that's fine, dude. I'm sure that there's a huge line of people who want to throw Daddy Trump's 3-inch fucking dick. If that's what you want to do, go out and do it. But don't sit here and try to act like you're engaging in good faith conversation in my chat. There's plenty of communities online that are full of other 75 IQ fucking Neanderthals that you can go drag your knuckles across the fucking dirt with. I mean, like, why do it in here?
Thank you, George. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. You stated that anyone making less than $400,000 will not see one single penny of their taxes raised. That's right. But also state that you are going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. The Trump tax cuts reduces taxes for the majority of workers. I would argue not enough. What is your plan for either extending the tax cuts for the middle class or creating a new plan that further reduces those taxes?
I carry this card with me. When I said the Trump tax cuts, about $1.3 trillion of the $2 trillion in his tax cuts went to the top 1/10 of 1%.
Look at this. What are you doing? Destiny is so wrong. Trump ain't perfect, but he's the best we've had since the 80s. No wars. American come first. Trump, Destiny is the one screaming dead government. What do you mean, no wars? Like, how much have we done in terms of military activity? We tried to take over Syria's oil fields and run them for a bit. We abandoned our allies, the Kurdish people, the Middle East. We bombed a fucking Syrian airport. We bombed the fuck out of an airport in response to chemical weapons attacks. We assassinated the leader of a foreign, intelligence service military, Soleimani, on Iraqi soil. We continue to support the Saudis. We make massive arms deals with them as we continue to drone strike the fuck out of Yemeni citizens. Where are you getting this idea? No wars. Like, you're delusional, dude. Like, who do you get your fucking news from? Go look up anything that I just talked about. None of this is even controversial.
That's what I'm talking about eliminating, not all the tax cuts that are out there. And by the way, if you just take a look, we reduced the corporate tax rate from 35%, and Democrats and Republicans who were in office thought it should come down to 28%. He reduced it to 21%. You have 91 out of the Fortune 500 companies not paying a single solitary penny. If you raise the corporate tax just back to 28%, which is a fair tax, you'd raise $1.3 trillion by that one act. If you made sure that people making over 400 grand paid what they did in the Bush administration, 39.6%, you would raise another, it goes up to, let me get the exact number here.
Anybody that uses the term TDS or Trump derangement syndrome is acknowledging that they have no defenses for this leader, okay? I just want to say that but also, I like it because it's also like a very easy like litmus test to find out if I think you are a fucking retard. Like it's so easy that like if you're gonna sit here and go on all these like tradcon YouTube channels talking about how incels are like real and fucking all the social issues are being destroyed and we need strong good men like, and like your leader is a guy that had to make hush money payments to a fucking porn star that he was fucking behind his wife's back, his third wife's back, that he imported from some Eastern European country because no woman fluent in English could stand to be in the same fucking room as him for more than 4 hours at a time. Like that's your guy that you go to, and then you accuse other people of having Trump derangement syndrome. That shit is fucking hilarious to me, dog. Keep up the great work.
Another $92 billion. So you can raise a lot of money to be able to invest in things that can make your life easier. Make you change your standard of living by making sure you have affordable health care, by making sure you're in a situation where you're able to send your kid to school, and if you have a student debt, you can deal with it, making sure that your home, you can pay your mortgage. You got 20 million people right now.
Mr. Vice President, let me press you on that, though.
Sure.
You're going to raise the corporate tax, you're going to raise taxes on the wealthy. Is it wise to do even that when the economy is as weak as it is right now? Another 900,000 people.
That's a great question. Moody's did analysis of my detailed analysis of my tax plan and my economic plan. They said, I will in 4 years, Moody's, Wall Street, said I will create 18.6 million new jobs, good paying jobs, number one. Number two, and I'll increase, the GDP will grow by $1 trillion more than it would under Trump and 7 million more jobs than under Trump. And the reason is when you allow people to get back in the game and have a job, everything moves. Everything moves. Right now, you got the opposite. You had last year, during this pandemic, you had the wealthiest billionaires in the world, in the nation. They made another $700 billion. $700 billion. He talks about a V-shaped recovery. It's a K-shaped recovery. If you're on the top...
I like you, Destiny, but you're literally playing it faster just to hide how slow and inept Biden is at speaking, man. I'm playing it faster because we don't need to sit here because everybody speaks slowly. I played the Trump one just as fast, my dude. Like, were you missing the first part? I could play this at speed. Maybe Biden speaks slowly for people like you to understand it. I mean, if you don't understand, we can play Biden at his normal, like, fucking, 2 mile an hour talking speed, if that's...
You're going to do very well.
There you go.
And the other thing maybe
this is better for you.
Or you're in the middle or the bottom, your income is coming down. You're not getting a raise. I don't know what you do. You may get a raise. Hope you're a billionaire. But all kidding aside, but it's about growing the economy. And George, the way out, the reason why I'm so optimistic about economic recovery, more than I've ever been, is we have these 4 crises happening all at once, and one helps the other. For example, we're going to invest a great deal of that money into infrastructure. And into a green infrastructure. We're going to put 500,000 charging stations on new highways we're building and old highways we're building. We're going to own the electric market. You know as well as I do from your days, in the old days, where the president spends about $600 billion a year on government contracts. Everything from making sure they have aircraft carriers to automobile fleets for in the United States. If you and it's not violation of any international trade agreement, made in America. If you actually insist that, whatever that product is, made in America, including the material that goes into the product, it's estimated we're going to create somewhere between another 4 and 6 million jobs just by doing that. But what's happening now? Under his trade policy, a lot of this is going overseas. You get a benefit from going overseas if you have much of it being made overseas. So if you send it overseas, you get a 10% tax increase on the product. If you make it in America and you bring it back, you get a 10% growth. If you bring back a company and you're going to open up an old facility, you get a 10% tax credit for all you invested. That actually works, George.
So there's not going to be any delay on the tax increases.
This doesn't work. Fuck protection is bullshit, okay? Listen, take advantage of comparative advantages between countries. If other people are better at manufacturing shit, just focus on what we do better. Fuck this idea about bringing back manufacturing jobs. It's never going to fucking happen. We're never bringing back these. Fuck that bullshit, okay? Fuck this dumbass trade policy. But
well, I got to get the votes. That's why, the one thing that I have this strange notion. We are a democracy. Some of my Republican friends and some of my Democratic friends even occasionally say, well, if you can't get the votes by executive order, you're going to do something. Things you can't do by executive order unless you're a dictator. We're a democracy. We need consensus.
Got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I hope I answered your question.
We the people of the United States.
And making sure you start your day off with a smile.
Answers the most informed.
Oh, wait. Well, now that we're on break, what do we got for donos?
It seems like Nancy would do better by sending something basic to McConnell and force him to either pass it good or reject it politically.
Democrats have been doing that for years. It doesn't help. Nobody cares about legislation that dies on the House floor. Or not, I guess you wouldn't say dies on the House floor. It gets to McConnell's desk and is never heard. It doesn't seem to matter at all.
You gnome fuck!
Stephen?
Hello. Okay, pausing these again.
Voices from all sides. The countdown is on to the vote. What will our future look like? ABC's This Week with George. It all plays out right here every Sunday.
The most consequential week.
Oh, shit. I should be doing my own commercials. You're right. Hey, Did you know that if you go to my website at destiny.gg/embed/chat, if you're a YouTube sub and you sign in here, your sub will be reciprocated in my chat. Look, you get to talk with all these cool people in a more stable, cool chat without all the batshit insane Republicans that are invading my fucking YouTube chat. How cool is that? Also, Destiny, did you watch the grading video I sent you? Oh, are you the guy that emailed me? No, but I have it queued up. Wait, which one is it? Grading is capitalist conditioning. You emailed me this one, right? I'll probably watch it today. Wow, you can sub on my website and... oh yeah. Oh look, and buy my merchandise here. Do you want to let people know that you're politically informed, that you have the right opinions, that you're an omni-liberal? Then say no more, my friend. Walk around in an I'm shrooming shirt, and people will know that your brain is so fucking big, it produces so much goddamn heat from the mitochondria powering the fucking transmissions between your neurons that your brain is literally fucking melting your head. Let other people know how intelligent you are. Go and buy my merchandise. That's all I got for now. Look at all these cute. Look at this. Look at how cool this guy is. God, he's got tats and everything, man. That's a real life model with my real life shirt on. How based. Okay, back to this.
Weekend of this hyper-political year.
Right as you get closer to casting your vote every Sunday on ABC.
Who was John Lennon?
Magical, brilliant, daring, rebel, a working class.
In this election will be black voters.
Welcome back to our town hall with Joe Biden. We're going to get a question now from Cedric Humphrey. He's a student from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, progressive Democrat.
Don't jump, Cedric. You look like you're way up there.
Okay. Thank you, George. And good evening, former Vice President Biden. Many people believe that the true swing demographic in this election will be black voters under the age of 30. Not because they'll be voting for Trump, but because they won't vote at all. I myself have had this exact same conflict. So my question for you then is, besides you ain't black, what do you have to say to young black voters who see voting for you as further participation in a system that continually fails to protect?
Wait. Glad to hear Destiny's response to the criticism of Nancy, but I don't really find it convincing. Even if sending things to McConnell usually doesn't help, now all eyes are on it, plus people need help. No, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure that she just sent like a 1.8 trillion bill off to his desk that he didn't look at. But this House has passed like a record amount of legislation that's been passed through the House. The Senate just doesn't look at it, but I don't think people know that. Like, look at how many, for instance, look how many woke dipshit, I don't want to say progressives, lefties, like commies or socialists on Twitter, these white suburban kids, okay, that talk about how fucking woke they are to socialism and shit. Look at how many of them criticize Nancy for getting nothing done. House pass legislation. Dude, the House has passed so much legislation. I don't know if I can find like a news. Fuck. I had better sources of this, or I'm not going to be able to find anything, but like the House has passed so much legislation over the past legislative session. It's been unbelievable, but all of it dies in the Senate. Like, yeah, literally no one knows that. Yeah, everybody says that like Nancy Pelosi's doing nothing, but that's just not true. How do you make sure the Senate actually does something? You have to win the Senate, right? Republicans aren't going to hear the legislation because they're not going to pass any of it. So yeah, you have to win the Senate.
Them.
Well, I say, first of all, as my buddy John Lewis said, it's a sacred opportunity and right to vote. You can make a difference. If young black women and men vote, you can determine the outcome of this election. Not a joke. You can do that. And the next question is, am I worthy of your vote? Can I earn your vote? And the answer is, there's two things I think that I care, and I've demonstrated I care about my whole career. One is, in addition to dealing with a criminal justice system to make it fair and make it more decent, we have to be able to put black Americans in a position to be able to gain wealth, generate wealth. And so you look at what that entails. It entails everything from early education. That's why I'm supporting making sure that we in Title I schools, as you know, schools with the least tax base to be able to support their schools. I increased the funding for them from $15 to $45 billion. That allows every teacher in that school to make up to $60,000. And the problem now is they're leaving the schools. They're not there. We're short about 1.5 million teachers, 1.25 million teachers. Number two, every 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old will go to school, not daycare, school. And what all the great universities, including the one you've go to or went to, in fact, talks about in the last 8 years what's happened. What happens when you let them go to school, they make up rapidly whatever shortcoming they had in terms of their education prior to that. They have not heard as many words spoken, et cetera, et cetera. What happens is that the studies show that 58% will increase by 58% their chance of going all through 12 years of school and going through successfully. We'll also provide for the ability to bring in social workers and school psychologists. We have one school psychologist in America now for every 1,507 kids. It should be 1 to 500, not just in schools that are poor, but in all schools. Because we learned that, for example, drug abuse doesn't cause mental illness. Mental illness causes drug abuse, the failure to get hold of people and deal with their anxieties. In addition to that, I provide for $70 billion for HBCUs for them to be able to have the wherewithal to do what other universities can do because they don't have the kind of...
I do not know how I feel about HBCUs. I've never heard a convincing argument for them. They seem like really dumb, but I don't know. But every time I kind of say that, I feel like people say that, no, HBCUs have an important purpose in America. I don't know. I just don't have a strong opinion on them. I haven't looked into them enough, I guess. It's historically black colleges and universities, right? That's what it stands for, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What are they? I think they're like like historically black colleges and universities. I think anybody of any race can go there, but I think they're important in Black American history. I don't know. I'm not sure. None come out of HBCUs and everything. I don't have a strong opinion about them, I guess. Wait, is my YouTube stream up, or did just my Twitch stream die? Oh no, they both died. Least fucking competitive game that's ever been released on Twitch. Like, holy shit! Like your avatar is a fucking Teletubby, and you're getting this mad.